Okay, guys, here we are, day 4 and part 4 of the 4-part series from King of the Picks for the 2023 Cheltenham Festival. So, in today's video, we're looking at the Boodles Gold Cup, and we have a very strong favourite here in the William Mullins trained Galopin. Now, I was just looking through this race, and I actually backed 4 of these horses last year, so I did with the service, and none of them won for us. Back Galopin in the Turners, where he fell at the last when he was like 20 lengths clear of Bob Ollinger, who fell over the last. Bravemansgame was non-runner due to the weather. Turned soft or turned heavy on him, and he was non-runner. And then we back Noble Yates in the Ultimate, and he came ninth. And then he went on to win the Aintree Grand National just to sicken us totally at 50 to 1, when I was this close to actually tipping him up, but didn't, and came back to bite me. And then we back Conflated in the Ryanair, who would have finished second, in my opinion. A distant second now behind a very, massively talented Allaho, but would have finished second, only he came down to last. So hopefully we'll have a bit better luck this year. I'm only going to be backing one of the horses that I mentioned, and it's probably not the one that you're expecting. Like Galopin he's done absolutely nothing wrong bar fall last year. Like he's won over hurdles, grade 1 level at 3 miles. He won on his comeback this year. So he did, beating Fakir Dudari. That was over 2 miles 4 on soft. There was a punch down, and then he won over 3 miles at the Dublin Racing Festival, beating Statler by 8 lengths. Now, I was there that day, and he stayed through the line very strongly, and an extra 2 furlongs didn't look like it looked like it'd be no problem for him. Still, he hasn't done it, and just at the prices at 6 to 4, you'd like to see him after doing it. Like, he's very short. You have to take on a horse at 6 to 4. I know I backed him last year at even money, but he was up against 4 runners, and 2 of them were, no hopers. So he was even money to beat Bob Ollinger, who, as we saw, was only a shadow of his horse, of the horse he was the year before at that stage. So that's why I backed him at even money last year. But at 6 to 4 this year, I don't think there's much value there, and I'd rather take him on. Let him go and win the race. He'd be a great champion, brilliant Gold Cup winner. Nobody begrudge him, but I'd be looking to take him on with an each way bet. So then you have Bravemansgame, 8-year-old trained by Paul Nicholls. Like, he won at Wetherby 3 miles and good to soft, beating Eldorado Allen on his comeback this year. Then he went on and he won the King George. Now, Paul Nicholls made no secrets that was his King George horse. Everything, his whole season revolved around King George. But he won it, like, he got plenty of hassle. There was out wide, so he was being annoyed at his fences, and he just still showed and stayed on strongly, so he did at the line. Like, he bet Royal Pagay by 14 lengths. Now, L'Impresse would have been, maybe 4 or 5 lengths behind, only for falling at the last, but he was impressive there. And I know some people are cribbing that he didn't handle Cheltenham when he was a novice over hurdles, but that was 2 years ago, and I just think this horse has filled into his frame. He's a big horse, and I think mentally he's matured a lot, and I expect him now to be very competitive in this race, and I think he's a right good each way bet. But I would weigh it for 4 places. Like, all no point backing him now, and it lashes rain, and we don't know. Just wait for the day before. You'll know the weather conditions better, and bookies will be paying 4 places, and he won't be much shorter anyway than that. A Plutard was a brilliant winner this last year. He went off 3 to 1 favourite. He was second in it the year before. Beat Manila Indo, who won it the year before. Beat him by 15 lengths. Now, last year's Gold Cup, it wasn't an out-and-out gallop from the start. It turned into a bit of a sprint, and it suited him. He had a little bit of class that he just sped away from basically up the hill. And look, he was an impressive winner. But on his comeback there this year when he pulled up at Haydock, now his bloods came back wrong, but he hasn't been seen since. So it's very like if he showed any kind of form this year, you'd be saying, yeah, he's highest rated in the race. He's proven over the distance. He's proven on the track. Like he ticks every box, but he's shown no form this year. So it's very hard to put faith in him to have him, perfect for next Friday. You've Noble Yates then, like I said, came ninth in the Ultimate last year when our money was on him. Then he followed up, like he was an impressive winner at Aintree in the Grand National. He was like him and Annie second now. They were 20 lengths clear of Delta Work that was back in third. So the two of them fairly bolted, they were miles clear of the third. He was third to a high senior then at Cheltenham there in January. That was over 3 miles. Sounds Russian was second and Protectorate was back in fourth. Now, a high senior was impressive that day. He got everything. Like a high senior has all the talent in the world, but he's just clumsy, or I don't know. He's unpredictable. So he is. You just don't know which a high senior turns up. But when the right one does turn up, like he's all the talent to be like very competitive, at least in each way chance in this. If a high senior that we know, like when he won an Aintree as a novice. Like last time when he won, if he shows up, he's an each way bet. So he is at, I think he's around 14-1. Yeah. He was third here last year. He won this, so he likes the track, so he does. But Noble Yates was staying on that day, and he's an out-and-out stayer. The harder to go, if this turns into a stamina test, it'll suit Noble Yates down to the ground, and he'll be staying on, so he will. Like when Sounds Russian, like when he took it up and there in January, he was dying at the line. Like he just didn't see it out at all. So if he goes in this, I couldn't have him in this, to tell you the truth. Where was I now? Back to Statler. He won the National Hunt Chase here last year. Another horse that just looks like he needs a relentless gallop to have any each way chance. And yeah, he might be staying on at the end, but I just think he's going to need an end-to-end gallop to be seen at his best, and I'm just not convinced that he's going to get it. Shishkin is 10-1 here. He's odds on for the Ryanair. I'm sure he's going to go to the Ryanair. Conflated, like I said, back last year for the Ryanair when he fell at the last, he was going to be second. He then went on to Aintree, and he ended up finishing second behind Clanda's Oboes. That was over 3 mile one, and he was just beaten that day, so he was, and they were a mile clear of the third. Now, Clanda's Oboe was a talented horse, so he is for Paul Nichols, and he was kept fresh for that race, so that was a good performance, so it was. Now, at Christmas, he won the Savage Chase at Leopardstown, beating Kemboy by 5 lengths. Kemboy now, he's not the same horse as he used to be. He loves Leopardstown, but he's regressing and he's not as good as he was. He's getting older. Then you had Fury Road 6 lengths back in third. Like that form isn't exceptional. But Gordon Elliott now is very bullish that this guy that this is his Gold Cup horse. He's laid him out for the race for this year. And even though he admitted that he's no Don Cossack, he's firmly in the belief that he has an each way chance in this race, so he doesn't. At 12-1, he could be an each way bet. Like if it turned in, he'd enjoy more now if it turned into a sprint, or if there wasn't an out and out gallop, because he'd have a turn of foot. Like Conflated have a turn of foot. A Plutard would have a turn of foot. Bravemansgame to a certain extent. Galopin the Champ would. A high senior would be fine. If there wasn't a real strong pace that'd suit them, then you're down to Protectorate. I don't know. Like I think I'd have to come up soft, but I just don't think. I think he's a bit shy of. He might run into fourth, fifth, but I just don't. I don't see him winning, or I don't think he'll be in the first 3 even, to be honest. A high senior, I said earlier, on his day, he could easily be in the first three, but you just don't know what a high senior is going to show up. Hewitt, look at, he's been an exceptional servant for the Shark. He went over last time, won the American Grand National. He would have won down Listowel. I was there that day only for on sea hit the last. Now he made a desperate mistake. Jordan Gainford had no chance to stay in the saddle, but he was going to win that, no doubt. So he won the Galway Plate off top weight. Won Sandown the Bet 365 chase. Like, that was over 3 mile 5, so he's guaranteed to stay. The only problem with him is if the ground goes any softer than Yielding, you couldn't have him. Like, he's a real good ground horse, and even at that, like, the ground would have to be good. Worst of all, Yielding, for him to have an each way chance. If the ground comes up any softer than that, he mightn't even run, and they might just save him for the Grand National. Manella Indo, he's gone on 10 now. You know, he beat Statler in Tremor there in January by a neck or something. I think it was a neck, and he was getting £8 off him. So now he loves Cheltenham. Look at it, he is low. He's great form in Cheltenham. He was second last year. He was winner the year before. You know, he loves the track, but I don't know, just at 10, I'd be thinking maybe you might have an each way squeak. At 20 to 1, maybe 4 places, but I just think it could be, a year too much for him. Then you're down to the likes of Sound Russian. I said earlier, I wouldn't be gone on him too much. Capodanno, he's a grade 1 winner. 33 to 1, you wouldn't know, but I'd say he's qualified for the Aintree Grand National, so he might just go straight for that. Fury Road then is going in the Ryanair. Real Whacker, Novice Chase, Royal Bagay, it'd have to turn into it'd have to be a deluge. And then he might have some chance of running on for a place, but that'd be about it. But there'd have to be loads of rain now for him to feature in this. And the rest of them, I've no opinion of, really. I don't think they're going to get into it. So anyway, the winner most likely is Galopin the Champ. At the prices, I wouldn't touch him. I will be back in Bravemansgame each way, but I'll be waiting until the bookies are playing 4 places, probably the night before. And I will have a cover bet on Noble Yates, just in case, if it turns into a stamina test, I think it'll suit him. So I'll probably have an each way cover bet on him. So that's it. Thanks for looking at the previews. I hope there were some good to you, and I wish you the best of luck for your punting, and hopefully we all have a good Cheltenham, and enjoy.